linear equation. So this is where you need to keep the equation balanced. You're doing the same thing to each side of the equation in order to get the letter by itself. So remember that pluses and minuses are opposites of each other, and timesing and dividing are opposites of each other. You've been doing this stuff for ages. So I'm starting with a very basic one-step equation. It is a plus 4 equals 11. So the plus 4 is the one number that I need to get rid of. The opposite is to minus 4 from both sides of the equation. They will cancel out on the left side. And you get a is equal to 7. Now, some of you may be getting to the point where you don't need to show these little instructions anymore, and you'll be able to work much faster once you can not write those down. But also at the same time, I would rather you get the questions correct and do the working out than to be rushing too fast and make silly mistakes. Okay? On to part B. We have two numbers there to move. The first one to move is going to be the minus 4. The opposite is to plus 4 to both sides. That's the first step. We write down what is left. I have 2m on the left, and 11 plus 4 makes 15. Second step is to get rid of the 2 because it's next to the m, it is times. So the opposite is to divide. We don't use divide signs, we use a fraction line because that means divide. Cancel the 2 off. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5 or 7.5. Yeah? Part C is still a two-step equation. There is 2 numbers there. Make sure you get the order right as to which one you move first. You may have heard before of the layers, the grouping. So the x plus 4 that would be done as in those are together on the top of that fraction. And then all of that has been divided by 5. So when you're going backwards to try and get the x by itself, you have to do the outside layers and work your way in towards the x. Okay? So that tells you that the 5 is the one that you need to move first. The line means divide, so I want to times by 5. Gets rid of that. X plus 4 is equal to minus 3 times 5 is minus 15. Ruby. Next step is to move the 4, so I want to subtract 4. Opposite, doing the opposite to both sides. Minus 15 minus 4 more is minus 19. So hopefully that's fairly straightforward so far. Moving stuff away. However, getting into part D, we now have pronumerals on both sides. So you can see 5h on the left and a 3h on the right. You always want to collect those up first. And I always like to move the smaller one. It technically doesn't matter which one you move, but if you move the smaller one, you're going to avoid having more minus signs in your equation. Okay? So the smaller term out of the two of those is the 3h. To move that whole term, you would subtract 3h from both sides to cancel that one off. 5h minus 3h is 2h. I also still have the 4. And on the right-hand side, I still have the negative 6. Now it is a normal two-step equation. The first number to move is going to be the 4. Minus 4, minus 4. 2h equals minus 6 minus 4 more is minus 10. Last step is divide by 2. So h is equal to negative 5. I know some of you are going ahead, but you shouldn't be talking. Part E. Brackets, expand those first. So to expand the brackets out, we've practiced this in the last few lessons. 3 times 4x is 12x plus 3 times 5 is 15, and that's equal to the 7x. So all I've done is expand the brackets so far. Now I have pronumerals on both sides again. The smaller one, if I stick to my rule, is the 7x. It's positive, so the opposite is to subtract the 7x. Now that means that everything is gone from the right-hand side. That means it will be equal to 0. 12 take away 7 is 5x plus 15 equals the 0. Moving my other numbers away, I subtract the 15. 5x equals negative 15. Dividing by 5 to get rid of the 5, x equals a negative 3. Question F. A fraction on both sides of the equation. There is a couple of different strategies that you can use for this. As long as there is only one fraction on each side, you can use what's called the cross-multiplying method, okay, which is when you multiply the top of the left-hand side with the bottom on the right-hand side. So that's going to be 3 multiplied with 10 minus x. That will be equal to, and you times diagonally the other way, which is why it's called the cross method, because it makes that cross. You times the 2 with the x plus 1. That gets rid of the fractions altogether, and then you just expand out. 3 times 10 is 30, minus 3 times x is 3x. Expand the second bracket. 2 times x is 2x, plus 2 times 1 is 2. Pronumerals on both sides. The smaller one is the negative 3x. Negative numbers are always smaller than positive ones. The opposite of a negative 3x is to plus 3x to both sides. That will cancel out. And I have 30 equals 2 plus 3 makes 5x plus 2. Now my x happens to be on the right-hand side at the moment. That's okay. We want to move the 5 and the 2 away from it. The 2 goes first. So subtract 2. Now because I prefer my x on the left, I'm going to switch sides. The 5x is going to come to the left, and 30 take away 2, which is 28, is going to go to the right, putting the x on the left. Last step, divide by 5. That will give you 5 and 3/5 as a mixed numeral. Unfortunately, that method does not work if there is more than one fraction on each side. So even though there's no other questions here, let me just, on the side here, let me show you one that's slightly harder because you will have to do this. X, I'm making another question up, x minus 1 over 2 plus x plus 2 over 5 is equal to 2. So that question has two fractions in it, but they're both on the one side, and there's also another number involved in this equation as well. So I cannot use the cross-multiplying method. So that only works if there's one fraction on either side of the equal sign. So if you get this kind of equation, what you want to do is multiply through by the lowest common denominator. So if you want to write an instruction, we're multiplying by lowest common denominator. So think of when you're adding and subtracting fractions. I've got a 2 and a 5 there. My lowest common denominator would be 10, wouldn't it? So I want to multiply that whole equation through by 10. Now, to do that, you're just multiplying it to the top of the fractions. So it's going to be 10 times by the x minus 1 over 2. And 10 times the x plus 2 over 5. And also don't forget the 2. 2 times 10 is 20. Now when you do that, hopefully you can see that those fractions are now going to cancel off, because 10 divided by 2, whoops, touched the smartboard, makes 5. So 5x minus 1. 10 divided by 5 for the second fraction makes 2x plus 2, and that's equal to 20. So multiplying by the lowest common denominator means your fractions will cancel out, like that. And then it's back to a somewhat more normal equation. We can expand our brackets. 5x minus 5 plus 2x plus 4 equals 20. Now I do have two x terms, but they're on the same side, so we're just collecting them up. 5x plus 2x is 7x, and minus 5 plus 4 is negative 1 equals 20. Two more steps, so I've got two more numbers there to move, plus the 1, 7x equals 21, and finally divide the 7. All right, so there is a couple of those harder type towards the end of your exercise. I think they might have been the ones in question 17.